All right, everybody, welcome to another exciting adventure of MVP Office Hours. It is November 19th, and Dale and I, and hopefully Joy shortly thereafter, are happy to have you join us. Thanks for coming along. Normal office hours processes. Just a reminder that we're all available on Twitter and through the MVP Office Hours Gmail email address. If you have any questions, concerns, follow-ups, ideas, please reach out and let us know. We're all happy to help. And as you'll see later, but keep in mind that the success community is the best place to ask questions. All the events that are available from Salesforce are available through the Trailhead Waffle. You can go to the Salesforce events or adoption-led webinars or experts or community conferences are all available up in the top right-hand corner. The most important ones that are coming up in the next couple weeks. Automation Hour, there's one this afternoon. As a group, we are feeling very strongly that this is a great resource for all of our members and basically for everybody. Flow is becoming more and more critical to everybody's day, and so Automation Hour is a great resource. So add that to your Friday afternoon enjoyment. It happens I think it's every 2 weeks. It's not first and second, third, or something like that.
I thought they'd been doing weekly in the past and maybe trimmed it down as the team changed, but it is definitely 2 o'clock Central right as we end. So hop off one, hop off to the and hop onto the other. And again, like Squire said, our mindset, we're more than happy to help troubleshoot a problem that you're having right now with the flow. But as flow becomes the tool over the next several months and couple of years, that call, the automation hour, is really going to be diving into the why of the change and more of a strategic view to help facilitate the learning. And, you know, obviously from the last call, we're more than happy to talk about it here. But if you want more of an expert forward-looking way to do it, go to that call. But we're more than happy to help you fix stuff that's bugging you right now. So,
thanks, Dale. Next on the agenda, Dreamforce to You for New York was announced, I think yesterday or the day before. Should be some good online content coming on the 9th. Register for that and look for the agenda. And then Cactus Forest and Higher Ed Dreaming are both still scheduled for January. I believe they're both scheduled to be virtual, but we'll keep you updated on all of that. As a reminder, we're first and third of Friday of every month. MVP Office Hours Portuguese is the last Thursday of the month, and both groups have an Twitter handle, so feel free to reach out there. I didn't see Carlos today. I feel like he's been pretty busy, but he does a great job of keeping MVP Office Hours Portuguese moving forward. Like I said before, the success community is our friend. If you have questions, start there. There's so many people willing to help, and we'll summarize the questions and maybe even answer them in addition, but always start there. We're all active there and happy to share. And just a quick reminder as well, the MVP nominations are open. You know, I not jokingly, I sincerely say we're all MVPs. There's somebody out there that is an MVP that doesn't have that title, and if they represent something to you, go out there, fill out that form, make that nomination. It's important, it's valuable, it's really just, it means a lot to the people who are nominated. It means a lot to people who see them as MVPs, and it all starts with the community. So go out there and check that out. If there's someone that's in mind, fill out the form. And
I'll add on, like many of you who join us regularly, we know you're coming in either to ask a question or to learn something or to jump in and help answer the questions. We see you out in the community giving back and paying it forward and doing some really amazing things out there. And so just a quick sidebar, one of the questions that like Squire and Stu and folks like us get asked a lot is, well, how do I become an MVP? I want to become an MVP. How do I do it? Keep doing what you're doing, and the community will notice. Don't go over the top and say, I'm gonna be an MVP. Just keep doing what you're doing because you're doing the right thing. And yeah, we see you, we feel you, we see you.
Reminder for the normal call info. Next one's coming up on the 3rd, but for today we are recording. You all saw it pop up if you were here before we hit the button, but if you're joining late, if you don't want to be recorded or can't share something, please keep that in mind. Mute yourself when you're not involved in a question, but everyone's welcome to join in the conversation or ask a question. So raise your hand or pick a post and we will keep track of all those things. And when you do come on, introduce yourself. If you don't like to use your camera or what have you, it's nice to know who we're talking to and get to know each other in this virtual world. And feel free to post any links or resources or even screen share when the time comes. We have a couple of MVPs on the call, but like I always say, we all are. So hey, everybody, Stu, Dale, myself, what else have we got here? I think that's everyone right now. Am I missing anybody? Cool, but we're all on that road. So, just a quick update. I finally added a new link to our Link Hall of Fame. It came up in a conversation last week. The object key prefixes menu is really useful for a lot of good reasons. For some reason, Salesforce doesn't publish that. It seems like it should be a real document somewhere. The link here is to, I believe the site is Prey of Fish. It's, is it Bollinger?
Daniel Bollinger from New Zealand. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, he has a great site that has a list of the standard ones and some good conversation about how you might use them and where they become valuable. I would even go as far as say that we've talked about creating a document to manage all of our custom object prefixes for reference purposes. It's just quicker than trying to dig in and figure it out on the fly. So, but that's the new link in there. And with that, there were a couple cases in the success community that I wanted to circle back to. I think they got answered, but I want to make sure we didn't miss anything. And I was having some struggles with my email this week. So I don't know if we got any emails direct, Dale. You'll have to help me out with that.
We did not. Yeah, the only things I saw come in through the channels were Andrea and JoAnn. So Andrea, you want to start us off? Even if it's been resolved, do you want to talk about it?
It wasn't quite resolved. I think it was hard to understand what I was asking for when trying to explain it in text because it's a visual thing. So, and the way I'm trying to do it may not be the way to do it, but basically what I need to do is properly assign cases that come in from our community that we are building. And I know I can use case assignment rules. That's fine. I know I can get there. My challenge that I'm having is I need to figure out a way to show a filtered, narrowed down list. So the way our cases are set up, when they come in, most of it's email to case right now. So that's all taken care of. Case assignments, great, sets values, sunshine and rainbows. Essentially, we have 3 different product lines, markets, lines of business, call it what you will. And depending on which one of those is selected, that's the controlling pick list. And then there's this like gnarly list of like 100 or more products. And so a customer, generally speaking, a customer will only sit in one product line. And we want them to select the product they need support on based on their product line, which aligns to their account record type. That being said, what I've tried to do, and it in the debug window in Sandbox, it works. What I've tried to do is I have a flow that will get I'm just going to show you. I'm not going to talk. Can I show?
That's a great idea. That's a great idea.
that was the backstory for all of it.
Squire, you may need to stop sharing.
I can do that.
Here is my flow. And so we're getting the account. So I put the account ID as a field. Get the account ID. And then what I'm doing is I built custom metadata types that align to either club, nonprofit, or boutique. So that's a field, is product line. And so these are record choice sets, and they're dynamic based on the account's record type. So that's how I am currently filtering the lists. That works. If I debug it, what I get to then is when I try to run it in production, because again, we're trying to test it there, it does not see the custom metadata type. They come through as null. So this works. I can't type, and that's okay. And it'll go eventually because sandbox. Yay, it works. But then where's the other window I wanted to share? This is, if I test it in production, I'm getting the error and it is not pulling in the custom metadata type.
Andrea, to confirm, are you testing with a community user record or an?
Yeah, I have, so that sandbox, the debug I ran through, that one should be that one I'm not, that one, now that you mentioned that, I don't know. Let me check. Because the one in production is I created a test user for myself and I'm in an incognito window. It is a user that has, yeah, because it was running as another user, and that user has a community license. It's not, and I don't know if it'll make a difference. It's not the same profile.
Well, so metadata is aligned to profile. So does the person you're testing as have access to the metadata tables?
In production, I gave the community profile access. I did give community access to that profile after somebody suggested it somewhere. I didn't know that was a thing. So I did add it. Okay. And it's still going wonky.
Okay. That's always the first thing, because that's only been in place, what, a year or so, that custom metadata was controlled by profile access. So sometimes that's the one that slips.
Yeah. And I'm open to any other way to, because the other thing that's pulling in the custom metadata table is the ID for the queue that will be assigned. So I haven't built case assignment rules, but if I can get it narrowed down to product, where again, a narrowed down list based on the account's record type, I can, I'll put in assignment rules, and then it should be fine.
So I just want to make sure I understand your flow and your custom metadata, at least in the sandbox, is pulling in the correct lower level dependent pick list options that you want to see for products, right?
It's the way that it's set up, it's not actually looking at the dependent pick list. I'll where to go again, come back. They're record choice sets that are pulling in the custom metadata type where the product line is club market. Mm-hmm. And it aligns to when I created the custom metadata type, the value in that product field matches what's on the product pick list on the case. So in theory, it should set that.
So let's start with, I need to understand the whole experience here before I potentially ask a why. The community users, when they go to work with whatever page this is. Is it an out of the box page, or is it like a custom page? Is it something using like field sets? What is the community user actually interacting with?
I think it's a native like cases or contact support page.
Is it one of those bulk pages?
See that I'm not sure because I'm not the one that built it, and in retrospect did not. So I'm not sure, but probably because the person who built it is not advanced, like to the point where we'd be building out in knowledge set in terms of would be building out all kinds of crazy custom stuff.
Right. So the reason I was asking is, I mean, this would definitely take a whole lot of testing and proof of concept and everything, but and multiple record types. But if your products that you're trying to select from are ultimately in a pick list and aren't records, there's record type to pick list relationships that if this record type, then only these options are available. I'm working with a client right now that it's like a 3 or 4 level dependency. The record type becomes one-to-one with the next field, so that if you pick record type A, your only option in the pick list is A, and then drives the options in there. But with a community, I don't know, and then also saying record type dynamic at the account level, I don't know if the order of execution would allow you to get out of needing a flow and custom metadata and to work with record types and pick list options. But
right now our support is set up in a manner that we it's not just our support team that uses cases, and so there are our support cases are one record type right now. So without doing a big our case management.
Well, so what I was going to say though is if that path were work, spin off record types that are only available to the community users so that they can actually create the cases. And then once they create it, update the record type with a process builder or record trigger flow or whatever to a record type that the receiver would actually normally work with. And then that record type that the receiver works with, they then obviously have more expanded pick list options per record type to work with.
Yeah, my only concern there is it's sort of it's creating 3 more record types for things that in theory don't get you, like it's like almost like a holding pattern.
Workaround. It is absolutely a workaround. I will own that, and I don't even know that you could even get control of it in a community environment when you have a dynamic component at the account pushing its way down. But
so, I mean, the other thought was somehow a way to like build 3 different like global actions, but only show one of them depending on like I don't know enough to know how dynamic those components in a community could be. Like in theory on like a lightning record page, or like if this is true, show me basically how I have it set up in this screen. I like if I could this kind of an idea where if you're a club, you get this case creation component. And if you're nonprofit, you get this. And if you're boutique, you get this. And it's 3 global actions isn't the worst. So.
Well, and it sounds like you've gone down a really good path in your sandbox. You're trying to fix why isn't it working in production, which tells me it's probably either change set or something configuration by profile, like Squire said.
Okay.
Could you show the failure debug one more time?
Where did it go? It is this one. So owner isn't getting set. Like I said, the ID is pulling from the custom metadata type. And if this hadn't worked in Sandbox, I totally would have been like, something's wonky in my flow. I didn't create it properly or set my variables properly or assign things properly. But it debugged properly and it created a case, and now this. So
What's the difference in the user between the two? Is the user in production a real user, and in the sandbox you created the user?
vice versa.
Vice
So
versa.
in the, yeah, so they're both, and the difference is the one in the sandbox, it was a different, and that might be it might be something I need to look at closer. Is there a different, it's a different community profile. So we have an existing community that's like the small group uses it, and we're essentially rebuilding a whole new one. And so there's a new profile
Sure.
for that. So
and I mean, that just screams new profile means configuration issue, which is why I asked that first question.
I believe it.
You might want to do a side-by-side just to verify, like if it works with A, why doesn't it work with B?
Doing like perm comparator.
You can't do that against different orgs though, I don't think. So you'd have to, I mean, that's a little bit ugly. Do you mind in the org, the user whose profile is failing in the flow? Can we look at that profile really quick?
Yes.
I don't know what I'm looking for, so this might just be a waste of opening windows, and I apologize, but it just feels like, you know, if it, what's the saying? If it looks like a banana, it smells like a banana.
Talk like a duck or something like that.
There you go. That's the one. There's ducks involved. That you're right.
Something about a duck. If it walks like a duck, if it talks like a duck, it's probably a duck.
There you go.
So this is, oh, I forgot I was doing things and I turned off enhanced view.
Oh, then we're doomed. No, I'm kidding.
I know. Sometimes it's easier to make changes in this version.
I agree. I wish there was like a new enhanced that was a little
Like,
bit of both.
look, like when you want to see like all this kind of stuff in one fell swoop.
Yep. So in the metadata section, what's set up? Because I saw that flow is running in system. So it shouldn't matter what this user's profile sees.
So this one has, so this is this metadata type, that's the one that the flow is referencing.
Good. All right. And the metadata that's in you said the sandbox is where it works?
Mm-hmm.
That was deployed down. You didn't recreate the metadata table, right?
I created it all in sandbox and then
Oh, you pushed it up. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So okay, so last thing, and then I think that this probably benefits some closer work, and maybe not in this call, but we had a situation where out of the blue, a whole bunch of reports stopped working. And it was because we had metadata records that had a trailing space in one of the fields. And you couldn't see it, but because they'd been cut and paste into the records, you didn't, like 9 out of 10 tests worked just fine. And if you just happen to grab the one, have you done a recheck on your metadata in production to make sure it's set up as you expected?
I will double check it, because there was something when I was testing it in sandbox where it wasn't coming through properly, and there was a space in one or many, I don't remember.
Okay.
The other thing I would really love to do, Salesforce needs to make it possible to like data load custom metadata types. I know you can, there's developer-y ways to access it, but meh.
But it's not.
I feel like I've loaded custom metadata, but maybe we did it metadata-y, like you said.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway,
Anyways.
I'm really curious, and I feel like we could spend an hour talking about this. I'm
right. Sorry. Okay, I'm going to keep digging in, and I'll compare the profiles and see what's what and go from there.
Yeah, I would say check the profile, check your metadata. If those are both good, then we'll all dive in and try to help you.
Cool. Thanks.
Good luck. Sorry.
Oh, hey, you know what? It's totally okay. Yeah.
All right. Let's see here.
JoAnn
is up if she's on.
Yeah, she's not on.
Okay. You want to jump?
Want to pull it up anyway? Just
Yeah, we can, sure.
just in case somebody is able to answer to it?
I think it's a good conversation, even if we can't answer JoAnn's question.
Yeah.
So do you want me to share or should I just read it?
Share it, sure.
Please. All right. Time to move changes to sandbox to production, getting a failed validation due to code coverage issues. Raise your hand if this has been your problem ever. Everybody raises their hand. Total, a couple of tests showing 0% coverage. From what I can gather, these were done by an outside consultant, no longer has a relationship. What's the recommended process to track down and determine if I can remove it to get my code coverage up? So I think like there's a lot of questions here. I wish that she was on. And I think it's actually more like there's probably some best practice questions as well as some like how do I retest and validate and deactivate. Like the first thing that comes to mind is I feel like you should be able to run the same tests in prod and get like you should be able to see what's failing, right? Test coverage, so painful. Yeah, I feel like we need some input from her. Personally, I would say that the best thing you could do is circle back to figure out which tests are failing and try to focus on why. If they ever worked to a level of confidence, you should be able to identify, even if you're not a super developer, what needs to be tweaked and pushed through, and you can push them through one at a time with a change set to kind of catch up in prod. That said, if it's bigger than that, it's going to require a developer resource. Anybody have a different opinion there? Speaking as someone who had to deal with an issue where we had a developer basically pad test coverage with bool tests to get the coverage high, even though it wasn't actually testing anything. This can be a really slippery slope because as soon as you crack that open, it can be a real problem. But I do think that there could be some real subtle changes or even a deactivation, depending on what the test is testing to help solve the problem.
Go back, reevaluate the code, determine what it's trying to do, see if you can move it into flow. If the code is 5, 6, 7 years old, when declarative tools weren't as robust as now, maybe this is your opportunity to clean some house and slap a new coat of paint on the back end.
Yeah, I love that idea too.
Says the non-coder.
Yeah, I mean, if you can run it in prod, or sorry, in a sandbox and get your code coverage assessments, it should be pretty straightforward to figure out why there's a 0. Because 0, like, it's almost impossible. Well, I shouldn't say impossible. It's pretty hard to slip in code with 0 coverage. It takes either a managed package and then like mistakes down the line, I feel like. So maybe there's even an understanding of why it's failed. Like I'm thinking maybe it was tied to an installed package that's been uninstalled, but then the test coverage has been rerun and suddenly you've got a test that isn't really applicable anymore.
Now the 0 coverage, I know that sounds crazy, but there was just a couple weird things, and I'm probably not even going to say it right because I don't remember all the details, where I was asking, well, why does this part have 0 coverage? And they were saying, oh, well, this particular part is just like the library. In our case, the event library doesn't need it because we have this part over here and we're just pulling from the library. So maybe her 0 is just that part, but it's the other parts that needs to get higher.
Sure.
Does age of the API version that the code was written in have any impact on code coverage? Like as it gets progressively older, does that impact anything?
Only if you try to update the API on the class itself.
Gotcha.
That, at least I should say, that's what I've experienced, is that if you haven't changed the API, then the tests and the expected outcomes should be the same at the time it was written.
But I thought the problem was it's presenting at 0% today.
True, but the class itself stores the API it was written in.
Right.
So if you didn't change the API on the class with a deployment, it's still going to test at that API level.
Gotcha.
Are we saying the same thing? Like if it was written in 20,
We probably are. I mean,
yeah. So if it was written in API 20 and it was covered in API 20 6 years ago, as long as it's still in API 20, the test runs the same way. Like, you know, if there's been library changes or coverage changes. But if for some reason you update the class, then maybe the APIs aren't interacting well, but usually you get, yeah, there's
do enough things change though from API to API that if a version 20 versus a version, I don't know, 45, if they try to run together, could there be enough of a chasm that it causes one to completely bomb out?
As far as I know, sure, because some of the methods and things could be updated because of an API change, and so then if you're testing for one outcome and you get something else, that would be true. But again, that would only apply if they had changed the API on either side, and then suddenly the test isn't working.
Gotcha.
Some of the other things I've seen people have is like, and boy, I hope this isn't it, but sometimes I've seen people have data factories or third-party data like generators tied to a test class. And if like maybe the integration's turned off or the connected app doesn't work anymore, then the test itself doesn't know how to resolve itself. Or if the tests are tied to callouts and the endpoint doesn't work anymore, it's not actually a change in Salesforce at all. It's where it's mocking out to doesn't exist. I mean, there's so many questions about what this looks like.
Yeah.
I hope she joins us so we can look at that and everybody's heads can explode.
Well, until then, Melissa threw a question in the chat about soft phone. Melissa, go for it.
We were asked today to change the business hours for one queue, and they just don't have staff coverage from 4 to 5 today Pacific time. And so they just need us to change that so that their hours end early and the phones shut off. I don't know how to do that. And the admin who has gone in and done this accidentally changed so that all the phones turned off immediately, like right then. And we just need to do it for 1 hour. So does anyone have any familiarity with this? And what would you do?
I am so sorry. Oh my God.
Crickets.
So is the 5.9 integration installed?
Yes.
Or is it it's not a third party thing? I mean, it's third party built, but it's not a third party connection.
I believe so.
Okay.
Like it is a installed package, installed app. Yeah.
Any chance?
If I've gone there and I've looked at the components and I'm not seeing anywhere that, I mean, it like one of the components is 5.9 settings, and I look at that and there's nothing I can do. And I've looked out like in the app launcher and I'm not finding anything else, and I really have no idea.
This is a paid app, I assume?
Yes.
No support coverage at all in your contract?
I don't know. I've never had to deal with it before, and this just came up, so I haven't looked too far into it yet, but that's, yeah, I'm on their website. I have a login there, thank goodness. I wasn't even sure if I had that. And I have been looking at their documentation. It's not getting me anywhere.
Yeah.
So yeah, obviously I'll reach out to their support. I just figured before that I'd see if anyone had experience with this. Last minute changes are always the best.
Yeah, right before you go away for the weekend too.
Yeah.
Sorry, we don't have any 5.9 expertise, but we can definitely help you poke through the service logs if you want.
Well, I'll try contacting them and see where I get with that.
All right.
Okay,
Good luck.
thank you.
Good luck.
Anyone else have some stuff? I have a totally random question. It's more debatable than solutionable, so I don't want to go first. But if anybody else has anything, please speak up.
I have a question. This is Chris. I haven't seen this before, but I've been using data import wizard, and just for some random testing, I took a look at a report, contacts created without accounts. And I swore I've done the mapping correctly, right? It's pretty straightforward, right? Account, contact, account name, etc. But what, for some reason, I don't know if it's because of some dedupe or something within the data wizard, but it's creating contacts without accounts. Has anyone seen that or know the reason why that may potentially happen? I always thought you had to have an account associated with a contact when you import, but maybe you don't.
No, this is Marty. I've seen it and it will do it. And you have to create a report type showing contacts only without accounts to find them.
Yep, that's
Yeah.
what I did. Yep.
Yep. So, yep. And I think it depends on the edition. So I've had to go and make sure that that account is required, in all cases. So I've seen it.
Okay.
I've also seen it create duplicate ones too.
Yeah.
That also happens when you integrate with your Outlook, like the Einstein activity capture crap.
Right.
Oh yes, I've
You
seen
mean
it. I've
feature.
seen it create 1,000 duplicates.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can handle the duplicates. It's the orphaned or contacts without accounts that are like, okay, how do I associate that out, that like somehow remove them and then figure out a way how to get them back associated to something.
Is there something that you can show us to try to work through, or like?
Not on this machine, but I've been just using the standard data import wizard and just doing it where, don't match by account name or don't match by anything. So it just imports, but for some reason, some get added in there. It's weird because I ran that report that Marty suggested. You got to build a custom report type, and there are more in there than you would realize, which is scary.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean,
But
if I remember right with the wizard, isn't that one of the settings is like it asks you to either match or create accounts on each row, right?
I believe that's yes. Yeah. So I'm
And
going to try the data loader tool instead, see if I had the same issue.
And do all your contacts have a Salesforce ID relationship
To a relationship to,
to the account?
no, it doesn't.
So the reason I ask is because I'm trying to remember that wizard's been forever since I had to do one, but the way you set it up, I think there's a part of where it says, okay, match on this ID to relate, or create an account if I can't find one, or don't create an account if I can't find one. Like it's not those specific questions, but there's something about that configuration that effectively says, I'm loading Squire in, I can't find a firm that matches, so don't assign them to anything, versus create one based on the columns. I thought there was something along that line.
Yeah, so I'm creating accounts and contacts if my screen sharing correctly.
Yes, yep, perfect. This is awesome.
And I'm allowing duplicates because I find it easier to manage it that way, but just to make sure everything gets in, and I'm just putting none and none.
Okay. So on the hover on the account none. Okay, cool. Go ahead.
Yeah, so what that's why I've been leaving none. Should I be selecting one of these instead?
I feel like there's a combination of these settings that basically says try to find a match, or try to create an account, or don't bother creating an account. And like I said, it's been a while, so I'm just throwing darts, which is what you were doing before you asked the question. So I'm not being very helpful. But I think there is some help documentation tied to the wizard that might answer your question.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, guys.
please report back, because I'm sure you're not the only person that ended up with orphaned accounts or contacts.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys got a couple cycles, just run that, build that report type contacts without accounts and see how many might pop up in your org. It's you got to build that report type, right, with or without. And,
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how to resolve them too. I mean, are you gonna pull them all out and reload them, or are you gonna?
I don't know yet.
All right. All right.
Yeah, it's scary.
Nonprofit. Sarah, go ahead.
Okay. So I don't know how many folks here are familiar with customizable rollups in NPSP, but I'm having a funny thing that I'd be happy to share. Hang on.
Please.
Okay, so in customizable rollups, which is part of the NPSP settings, and so I think this is all NPSP code, visual force, that kind of stuff. So I wouldn't be surprised if folks are like, I don't know what's going on under that hood. But I have, so filter groups control these rollups, and these are like a way, they're sort of like another kind of rollup that you can have that isn't master detail necessarily, and is also not DLRS and is not rollup helper. It's its own NPSP thing. And the way that they work is they use these filter groups to say what records are you going to roll up. And in this case, I have one that's called all support income, which looks at opportunities that are considered part of support income. However, there's this second all support income one that I just added a 2 to the end because originally it said it was the same thing. And it says that it has 3 rollups. But if you look at my rollups, it's not listed in, it's not actually being used. And I don't know how it got there or anything about that. So it's sort of this mystery filter group that seems to be a duplicate of my existing filter group. There's also the same thing happening down here in dues. You can see that I haven't renamed this one. And it says this one has 0 rollups. Cool. And I was just wondering if anybody'd seen that or if I could try deleting it. I haven't actually tried doing that and seeing what happens. I think it says you can't because it's being used. Let's fingers crossed, see if this works. But I'm just curious if like, oh, maybe that worked. Okay, maybe it's simple as I can just delete the extraneous one, but it was a curious thing and I wasn't sure if anybody had seen something like that before, or if anybody's familiar enough with this piece of functionality to know more about it than I do.
Well, I'm pretty jazzed that we helped you solve the problem, but I'm hoping someone else knows more about it.
Yeah, sometimes you just have to show somebody else what you're doing and then it fixes it. So that's helpful, but.
Yep.
All right, well, put that in the record as an easy fix, but also a mystery as to why or where it came from.
I'm just curious, like from the perspective of like what the counter rollups looks like. If you open one of those up and go down to that section, what does it actually display? I'm just curious.
So this is the filter group, which is saying, okay, I want to use opportunities, and then what are my rules that are going to be included in that filter group? So I'm looking for any opportunities where the one field is true and the opportunity type is in this list. And if we wanted to see what that list was, I could go here and edit it. And it's just a list of types, and these are Picklist values.
Got it.
So then for the rollup, and these are pretty cool. If you're not familiar with them, I highly recommend them if you're on NPSP. They're really, really helpful. In a rollup, you can say, okay, what's your object that you're going to roll up to? What field do you want to put the rollup result in? And then what operation are you going to use? What time frame are you looking at? And then like what object are you rolling up and which filter group do you want to use to roll up? So in this case, it's looking for all opportunities that are part of that filter group from between 1 year or from 3 years ago. So anything that was that has a close date, I think of a year, close date of 2019. I don't know if I'm doing my math right. 3 years ago. Yeah. And then it'll sum up those opportunities. I've said I want to use the amount field to sum it up, and then it's going to put it into this target field, which is pretty cool. So then like on an account record, and I'm not sure I actually have any data in this sandbox.
So is a filter group almost like a cross filter of records to then
Yeah,
sub filter on effectively?
yeah, I guess
Okay.
you could say that. So it's saying like take these filters and use those, and then you can put the field. I don't know if I've displayed the field. Yeah, all support. So support income. I think I have it down here somewhere.
Okay.
3 years ago, like this is where that roll up would go if there were any opportunities for that.
Cool.
But I was
And-
getting
and what-
confused by these weird spurious filter groups that I don't remember creating.
And when it shows that count of was it rollups that what's the
Yeah.
number that, what is that showing you then in the record itself?
I think I'm not sure because I'm not sure exactly what like how what this object is. Like the roll up, is it its own object? Probably.
Okay,
Sorry, it takes a long time for this page to load sometimes.
that's okay. If you were the product owner, we could be mad at you, but we'll be patient. Like you are.
I'm just a customer.
Yeah.
So under filter groups, this is saying there's these 3. If you look at how many rollups there are,
So like if you open
there's
that
1,
record,
2, 3. Oh yeah. I open this record.
and then like if you scroll down, is there like a section that just shows you all of the things? Like is it just a
Yes.
count of related list records? Got it.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So it's basically, it must be telling, based on those labels, it must be telling you that here's the fields maybe that this roll up is feeding.
Yeah, I think so. It's saying like, oops, go back to filter groups.
Right?
Like
'Cause you've
this
got a
is
filter
saying,
for-
yeah, this is the count of related customizable rollups, I guess.
Got it.
Yeah, and it's just weird that like, where'd my dues one go? Yeah, that this is like, it looks like for all intents and purposes a duplicate, but like, and right now it's saying 0. But if like if I change the name on this, this is what really weirded me out. Is like, okay, I'm like, okay, this is a duplicate. I'm going to see what's actually using this, if anything. If I save it, we'll see if I can
If
recreate
it
this
suddenly
behavior.
says 3, you're gonna freak out. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly, that's what happened last time. So let's see if it does it again this time.
All right, we'll all freak out together.
Yeah, look at that. Boom.
What the what?
Yeah, I don't know. There's some weird going on.
Yeah,
their code.
definitely. I'm just curious.
But-
One last thing, and then we can let it go. I'm just curious if like the name and the API are disconnected, like on like the
Oh.
report label.
Yeah. Let me see if I do this and I use Salesforce Inspector, can I actually get to its data? So label. Oh, it's not showing me the fields. Fine.
That's okay.
Yeah.
All right. That was
I don't know.
fun. Thank you.
You're welcome. Here's a little NPSP detour for your day.
I just got smarter. Hashtag learn every day. All right.
Hopefully the phantom doesn't come back once I've deleted it. If it does, then
Yeah,
I know
we'll
something
play around. We'll all
fishier.
work together
Yeah.
to fix the problem again, right?
yeah.
All right. Anybody
then-
else have anything
then-
to say?
Behind
Oh,
the
sure, go
scenes,
ahead.
I mean, here's just nerdy Stuart talking now. And then behind the scenes, there's NPSP has all these customizable batch jobs in the background that are running to do these CRLP, customizable rollup batch jobs that are running to look at all of those configurations that Sarah has created, and has 3 different modes that it can run in, depending on how you've configured it to do it in I wouldn't say necessarily real time, but in kind of a batch mode or more of an incremental mode to do those calculations and then present them on the record pages. So
Yeah, and
tons of documentation. The .org side of the world has excellent documenters. And so if you really want to get nerdy, read the .org Npsp documentation, because you can just do deep dives into, wow, that's how they built that? That's kind of cool.
yeah, because a lot of this was built during sprints by people like us who just wanted to build it, and then gets incorporated into the .org architecture. So it's pretty cool.
Very. Thanks, Stu. Thanks, Sarah. Time check. We got 5 minutes. Anybody else have anything that they wanted to throw out there? All right, I'm going to throw my question out there, but we don't have to debate it. We can just maybe think on it a little bit. But one of the interesting conversations we've had in the last 2 weeks is we've been trying to hire another admin at Baird. And there seems to be a disconnect about what people think an experienced admin represents as far as both time and hands-on. And where it really boiled down to was there's like I don't want to say this, I don't want to throw anybody under the bus. If we bring in a programmatic developer, a .NET developer who has a year of experience, there is somehow this expectation that they have far more experience than a year of hands-on admin work. And what we realized is that developers who went to school are kind of equating a year of experience plus 2 or 3 years of comp sci learning into that picture of experience. And so, is 1 year of .NET development comparable to 1 year of declarative development? Why or why not? That's what we're kind of debating. And how are we going to level set on that experience measure? So
none of what you said is comparable, in my opinion. I think it really comes down to aptitude. Obviously, you have to know how tools work. You fork, light socket, don't put that in that, things like that. But
sure.
More and more, it comes down to aptitude, adaptability. Salesforce is one of the things that I've loved taking a step back and watching about the ecosystem is that it's becoming more and more open to personality skill sets than it is the actual technical skill sets.
Yeah, the soft skills, right? Yeah.
We're looking to hire. We have to get them posted, but we have we're calling mid-level and then associate or a junior. And I was telling my manager, I said, for the junior position, because the first thing is also not had to backfill. But I've said with the junior position is there's the ability for somebody to gather requirements and ask questions of users. The technical stuff we can figure out, we can Google whatever, but there's that other stuff that is so much harder to teach that I think is almost, especially in our org, is more valuable.
Because the other side, yes. Junior admins, I think, need to be the most in-demand position, to be perfectly honest, because you can have them do very basic configuration things to get their hands dirty, invite them into those requirements gathering meetings, even if they don't participate, let them hear, let them absorb, let them learn to see how it goes. They're going to learn the expectations of how to do it, as well as how their style fits into it, because style is a whole other dynamic that goes into success. On the other end of a developer with however many more years of experience, I'll be honest, I hear that and I think that's someone who's even more set in their ways and unwilling to change and unwilling to adapt.
Totally agree.
I'm with Dale on this. This is Ernesto. Yeah, I think with the developer, you have to wait how much interaction they will have with the users and how the requirements gathering goes, because most of the developers are developers because they don't have that side of things. That's the reality.
Which is fine, but
Which is fine. Yeah,
nowhere
totally.
not to put them.
It's all about, like you said, attitude, right? And the way that they manage themselves. Yeah. But I think it will be valuable if you get a developer to do that too, because then they can, understand flows very well and all that kind of stuff. But they can become, higher technical faster than a normal admin, I guess, the usual admin that you see. But yeah, I think the requirement part is important.
I'm interested in what .NET experience or whatever it was you said, Squire. What is that? Because I agree with what everyone else is saying, that doesn't sound like anything that's going to be helpful.
Yeah, no, I just threw out .NET's just a programmatic platform. I could have said Java, I could have said Apex for that matter. It's just, I have to agree 100%, and that's what we're trying to do is set the expectation of, and again, I want to say this in a way that doesn't also detriment a programmatic developer, but there's the idea of a good declarative developer not only has to have the technical skill, but an understanding of what I hear can be achieved by this list of tools that are in my box. And a programmatic developer, the message is build this. And there is no tools, there's no Lego pieces. It's you have a piece of wood and a knife, go whittle it into the shape we just described it. And that skill set is important, but it's totally different than an admin. And we need to try to convince our interviewers that it's a different conversation. Even to the point of, we talked a lot in the most recent conversation about, generically speaking, business unit connects to a BA, connects to an admin, and it's like, it's great. It's grapevine, right? Or telephone, right? But in our world, speaking for myself, but I hope for everybody, it's more of a Venn diagram. Is stakeholder, BA, admin are all working together to hit that bullseye versus the transfer of information, because it's so important that we understand the technical and the administrative and what's in the toolbox to achieve the goals. And so we're really trying to figure out what that means, because then it also then it makes it sound like every admin interview has to have BA skill set and PM skill set and technical skill set, which is also hard to achieve. So.
Yeah, I think that you talked about whittling that piece of wood into a knife. I heard the quote from Abraham Lincoln, why he was a good strategist, was he had a speech and he said, if somebody give me 8 hours to chop down a tree, I'd spend the first 6 sharpening the blade, right? And I think that a good admin has to have the same mentality. That I work with a lot of developers that have Java experience and .NET experience, but they struggle because they don't understand the Salesforce platform. And so I spend a lot of time teaching them, well, I get it, you're an awesome developer. You're like the top of the top. But there are limits and there's ways that you do things in the order of operations in Salesforce that you need to understand. And so, like, stop typing. Stop trying to whittle this thing into a knife. First, look at the piece of wood and understand the piece of wood first. And then let's shape it. Like let's talk about what this is going to do first. And then making a piece of wood is going to take no time at all. The actual technical part of building something in Salesforce is really easy. The hard part is the putting it together architecturally in design and thinking about what is this thing going to do. And really good admins, they can kind of picture that and talk about it and visualize it and demonstrate that to users and CEOs and everybody. And like, here's what we're trying to build. Wow, if you get a good admin that does that, excellent. And then they can communicate that to the developers and the users and everybody.
Squire, so when I majored in public relations in college, it was under journalism, but they said you have 1 foot inside the company and you have 1 foot outside the company. And that's kind of what we're all saying here, is that the admin is closer to that end user, kind of outside the techie thing. whereas the developers are further away from the end user. So
Squire, is part of the problem that the developers seem like they have more experience because they have all this technical training and that the admins aren't, and so the people are leading towards hiring the more experienced person?
No, I mean, because I love hiring, I call them green, it's not fair, but
Yeah.
junior admins, because I agree with what
Yeah.
everybody said. Like, we can train you up. It's more about who you are and how you work than what you
Yeah.
deliver. But what the challenge we're having is during our interviews, we have a lot of people interacting to try to, understand who this person is. And we have different rulers measuring the experience and the requirements. And it kind of came to a head with an interview we just had where I was really championing this person. And they're like, they've only got a year of experience. I'm like, are you
Right.
kidding me? A year as an admin is almost infinite if you're really engaged, but we weren't measuring with the same rulers.
Think about how much you can mold them then. If someone with a year of experience, I can take that person and then make them into somebody great. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, because I think the other piece that is sort of an echo of what other people have said, but the experience that that person had before their year as an admin counts towards adminning also. Like there's so many transferable skills. So it's not that they like came out of the ether and were an admin for a year and that's all the experience they have. And maybe that's the difference between like a developer side. Yeah, you need these very specific technical experience to count it as years of experience. But with an admin, so much counts as experience that they might not be less experienced, even if they've only been an admin for a year.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like we're working on a series of job descriptions and competencies that really leans heavy into, I don't want to have an interview that is a test of your technical knowledge. It's an interview to know who you are and how you approach. And that's hard for an IT-centric organization to think that way for a technical role when there's so much more involved. So that I just wanted to make sure. I think we're all saying the same thing, and I love that because I think we've all been brought up in this Salesforce ecosystem that's who we're supposed to be. So it's hard for me to say, what do you like just the shock of like, what do you mean they're not experienced? This person is great. So
You got your back. You're down
all
the right
right.
track.
All right. Speaking of getting our backs, we went long, and that automation hour is running right now, and it should be really valuable. So I'm going to insist everyone disconnect here and join that call. But it was awesome to see you all. Have a great Thanksgiving if you celebrate. Have a great week if you don't, and we'll see you in the beginning of December. Bye all.
Thanks, Squire.
Bye.